Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Omuhaka, the show that brings you as it is in black and white or in no color at all, as long as we bring it to you as we have been inspired to do. This is the A to Z series of life. We did A for a life, we did B for breathing, we did consistency at C and determination at D. We excelled in part 1 and 2 of E, and we talked about family in F. And now we are in G, and we did part 1 of G, dedicated to grief. And of course, this is part 2 of G. Part 1 was a bit and rather emotive. I hope that this one is going to be more informative than emotive. And I want to appreciate the psychosocial support that I've received from all of you. After watching the first video, I must admit that it wasn't easy shooting that video. And it's a wound that I have to work on healing. And of course, as the story goes, or the adage goes, Mahatma Gandhi could not help the boy with the problem of leaking salt until he was able to deal with his own problem of leaking salt. So I couldn't talk about grief if I could not come out of the closet and start dealing with my own grief. It's a step, even though the journey is 1,000 miles, but I've made a step. Let me hope that I'll get there. I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm on the way out of the woods. My name, of course, remains to be Meshack, Omuhaka, Mkenya, and this is my oh my. Let us talk about grief. Now, grief is basically defined as the feeling of sorrow, sadness, or intense emotional pain that is caused by the loss, especially of a loved one. And today I have two Rubik's Cubes. Basically, they are to help me to help you understand what exactly grief is. When you lose a loved one, you have a cocktail of emotions. Depending on circumstances that are surrounding the death of this loved one, you are likely to think of anger. You are likely to feel quite angry that maybe you didn't take some step when you were supposed to take that step. You're likely to feel some sadness because of people who you feel are more hurt than you. You're likely to feel some loneliness depending on how close you are with a loved one. You're likely to feel quite vulnerable, especially when people are visiting you and are telling you sorry and take heart and God is there and stuff. And so all these gets to form what I call a cocktail of emotions. And so, like a Rubik's Cube, you happen to have different puzzles that you need to deal with. The approach that you give to anger is not the same approach that you give to vulnerability. And it's not the same approach you'd give to sadness. And it's not the same approach you'd give to loneliness. And it's not the same approach you'd give to the feeling of failure and so on. And so grief gives you multiple Rubik's Cubes to deal with at the same time. I am not a genius. I know that I have a high IQ, but I'm not so sure I would get to the level where I would solve Rubik's Cubes at the same time. And I bet even you who is watching, you may not be at that level. And so that is grief. It is intense pain. It is intense sorrow. When my grandpa passed on, the news were broken to me, unfortunately, via WhatsApp group, our family WhatsApp group. I remember it was in an early morning. 4 months had just reported to school or thereabout. Can't remember. But I was doing something to do with the registration of students. And I walked to a class. It was quite early in the morning, and I asked for a student using the admission number. They took forever to respond, and I reacted in a very bad way. To date, I feel quite apologetic to that poor boy. But that was what made me realize that I was hurting. When my dad passed on, I had an entire conversation with a boda person, and I couldn't remember that I had talked to him about anything. But when we got to where we were going, he asked me, so when will we start the business? And I was so shocked about what business was referring to. People react differently when they get the news of losing a loved one. Let me say that in this segment, we want to talk about exactly how should you react. Number one, let's agree that you have lost a loved one. Let that sink in. You're a firstborn. Even if you're the bread the deputy breadwinner, if there is such a phrase. You have lost a loved one. Even if the very first thought that comes to you is how you are going to be busy the next couple of days planning for their send-off, take a moment and just allow yourself to internalize that you have lost your loved one. Internalize that you have lost them. Take a moment and allow your memories to feel that you are losing a loved one. The biggest mistake that people commit insofar as grief is concerned is to quickly construct a wall and block themselves from dealing with the reality. And that is why, in the second segment, we will talk about that. That is why, the third segment actually, that is why you get people who dream with their loved ones or claim to be seeing them around and such. It's not a spiritual matter, it's just a psychological issue. This is a person who just didn't deal with grief. Dear friend, you have lost a loved one. You've lost your mom. You've lost your dad. You've lost that child. You've lost that uncle. You've lost that nephew. You have lost that friend. You've lost your spouse. They are dead. It's sad. It's painful. It's difficult to come to terms with. But guess what? It's the reality. They have breathed their last. And you will see them no more. Take time and internalize that. You want to deal with grief? Start from that very point. Start from the point where they are dead. Start from the point where the doctor says they didn't make it. Start from the point where whoever it is breaking this news to you is telling you, unfortunately, we have lost them. Start from that point. And let us be able to accept that reality. Accept that painful, very, very painful reality that they are normal. Very important. Number two, once you have accepted the reality, the painful reality that you have lost a loved one, you now need to get yourself into the period of, preparing for their send-off, and don't skip any step. If people are going to the morgue to view the body, please go and view the body. If people are, thinking about what to wear, please think together with them. They are doing some special t-shirts, do that with them. People are thinking about how we're going to travel together with them. If the body was to come from abroad and, guys are to receive it maybe at the airport, or people are to receive the remains maybe, please be with them. Don't hide. Don't run away from the preparations to send, to give your beloved a befitting send-off. Be with people every step of the way. Hey, we are doing special t-shirts. Yeah, do that t-shirt. Hey, we are thinking that about it. Yeah, do that. We are, just be part of it. Because that one helps you to internalize and accept the fact that, we are doing this. It's like admitting a student in Form 1, and then you come with them to school, and then they sit at the gate. Then you, the parent, you do literally everything. You carry the box to the inspection point, to all those other checkpoints, to uniform and, everything. So by the time you're calling your son or daughter from the gate, you're like, hey, come. They're basically coming to put on their uniform and go to the dormitory. Shock on you. You will have messed up with that student. They will take forever to adapt. But if at all they came and they are the ones who carried the box, went to the checkpoints and they were asked, where's your dictionary, and they produced it. Where is your pair of slippers, and they produced it. Where is your water bottle, and they produced it. These students, by the time they are done with the process, they have internalized that they are now in boarding school and they are now transiting to the next level, and they have to do this, and the daddy is no longer here, mom is no longer here, and I have to do this, and I am alone. they're not likely to start crying. They are not going to feel nostalgic and stuff. No, they'll just be okay. Why? Because they were part of the process. You want to deal with grief, dear friend, be part of the process. Every single step in preparing for the send-off of your beloved, be part of it. In fact, offer to do a few things here and there. Just try and be part of it. I sometimes feel bad about some cultural hindrances that get to hinder people from participating so actively in the preparations for the send-off of their loved ones, for reasons that of course would be explained by the cultural heritage of these different communities. Maybe, a stepchild should not be so active, or something, and all these kind of things. It's not a good thing from a psychosocial point of view, because eventually you leave us with someone who has not healed, who has not dealt with grief. So that is number 2. Number 3, allow yourself to cry. I know you're a man and you have 6 packs and you've gone to the gym and you look like a big guy. Allow yourself to cry. I know you are a pastor and you have this big church and you know there are people who are depending on you. Cry. I know you're a manager and you have this entire organization that is looking up to you and they are expecting you to offer direction. Cry. I know you're a father and you have 3 wives and you have these people who are around you and children that are looking up to you and you have your siblings. Cry. You have lost a loved one. There is nothing shameful. There is nothing embarrassing about losing a tear or 2 because you have lost a loved one. And I know we have this toxic masculinity that is misguiding men to imagine that they are not allowed to cry, that it is wrong for a man to be seen crying. Who said so? You are an emotional being. God is emotional. Jesus Christ was God, and Jesus Christ came to this earth, and when he lost his friend Lazarus, he cried. That is God. He cried because he lost his friend Lazarus. And God said in Genesis, let us make man in our own image and likeness. And so God created you just like him. This same God that is emotional. This God would feel the cries of his people. He would hear and feel the cries of his people in Egypt. If you're a man, there is nothing wrong about you crying. And no one said that you're supposed to be strong all the time. Cry. And if you feel then you are too embarrassed to cry before people, go and hide yourself somewhere. But at least cry. You've lost your mom. You're not going to tell me that you're just hardy. You're not a rock. Cry. Allow yourself to cry. Allow that emotion to come out. Because if you don't allow the emotion of grief to come out through tears, it will come out in very dangerous ways. It will come out in anger. It will come out in strange misunderstandings. It will come out in a very weird, bad way. It will come out in change of character and change of behavior. Just allow it to come out through tears. Just cry it out, finish it out, just cry. You will cry the day these news are broken to you. You might cry when you go viewing the remains of your loved one in the morgue. You will cry definitely when you see your loved one being lowered 6 feet under. And when you will take that lump of soil, and the pastor or whoever it is that will be in charge of that service will say, from dust to dust. And you will be required to release that lump of soil. It is going to be painful. Allow that pain to come out through tears. Allow yourself to cry. That is very, very important. And number 4, post-burial, accept the reality that you have a wound. You will not just forget. My daddy passed on in 2013. Today is 2022. 9 years down the line, the wound is still as fresh. Very fresh. So don't imagine that after the burial, maybe after the memorial, first memorial, second memorial, you're going to be okay. You will not be okay. Recently, recently might mean a year or two ago, I got an opportunity of attending the 25th memorial service of a prominent person. I'll not mention the name because I didn't ask for their permission to use them in this video, but a prominent person in this country. Now, the children to this prominent person are very prominent people in the country right now as we speak. So they are prominent people. And they are big people. They are old people already. They are very old people. But they were emotional as they were remembering their father. 25 years after his death, they still felt the pain. And so accept that reality. Because when you accept that reality, you will know how then will you live. How do you live in that house when your wife is not there? How do you still sleep on that bed when your husband is not there? How do you get into that room when your child no longer sleeps soundly and peacefully so on that bed? How then do you hold your phone not to call this brother or sister of yours, but to just admire their pictures because they are normal? How do you deal with the fact that they are absent? You simply deal with that fact by accepting that there is a wound, by accepting that there is some emptiness that has been left by the passing on of this dear one. When you accept that reality, then you are able to moving forward. Dear friend, death is real. It's inevitable. My aunt says, "Ninjia yetu sote." It's the path we are all onto. Eventually, we are all going to die. I might die before you. You might die before me. I might cry in your burial, or you might cry in my burial. One thing we're sure, someone is going to cry. Maybe me, maybe you. One thing I don't want to do is to live a life of a prisoner because you didn't deal with grief. Maybe you need to solve one Rubik's Cube after the other. 1, 2. It's as simple as that. That's the story of grief. Watch out for part 3, where we will be talking about life changes that are brought about by grief. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Meshack Omuhaka Mkenya. Let us have this conversation. Open up. Let's talk. Sometimes all we need is a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. I've been your host, Meshack Omuhaka Mkenya, and this was my, oh my.